Hey folks, it has been a while. I was trying to get one video out every Monday, but seeing as today is Monday, it's possible that we won't. I'm gonna be right back. As I was saying, good to see you. It's been a bit. We're gonna clean up a little bit. We're gonna be going for 250 for, I believe 9 on the deadlift. I believe we'll be doing Zercher squats again as well for 9. So that's gonna be 3 sets of whatever I just said for 9. I think I said 250. And then Zercher squats for 9. We're gonna start up warming up with my favorite little ditty, the face pull. And we'll go from there. Topic for the day, because I'm gonna try it. This video might be shorter. We'll see how it goes, but topic for the day is I really don't think you should argue. Just basically in general. Debates are cool, and we'll go over the differences, but I think given how finite life is, I mean, you don't know, you could go to sleep tonight and die. Every minute spent arguing is just guaranteed a waste of your time. So basically, when you're arguing with someone, there are 3 fundamental outcomes from that experience. Basically, there are 3 ways it will end, and that's kind of it. The first one is that the thing you're talking to isn't even a person, it's just a bot. Previously, they used to be very simple chatbots. Now, obviously, you've got the generative chatbots, and they're pretty prolific. There are more bots posting every minute of the day than there are people by probably a wide margin at this point, but it's only going to get worse, which is kind of fine because I think that's going to completely devastate all these major companies like Facebook, and I don't really care about them. The second possibility is you're going to be arguing with a troll. So basically, you're having a conversation with somebody who's kind of bored. They've got nothing to give to the world. They lack any sort of skills. And so they spend most of their time online posting and arguing with people just because it helps them feel like they matter in some way, even though they don't. That group is actually quite large. I mean, it goes all the way up to Musk. I mean, you look at most of his posts, and good old Elon is just a troll. Completely smooth-brained, has nothing to give to the world. This is what it is. And then the third group are fanatics. These are people who there's nothing you could say that would change their mind. And at that point, just by definition, you're wasting your time. You're trying to convince somebody who believes that gravity doesn't exist, basically. It's a sort of a stand-in for whatever insane thing they're arguing. And the way I've always described it is, I respect myself too much that when I see somebody dig this incredible hole into the ground, just well below sensible conversation, it isn't my responsibility to fill that hole back in before we can have an actual normal conversation. If they want to be in a pit, leave them there. That's just how I feel. And you'll notice that none of these options were good faith discussions, because I don't think, though the term used to mean something like that, I don't think that modern arguments are ever in good faith. People are saying things and doing things because they want to get a rise out of you, because for them this is a sport. And the sooner you recognize that, and the sooner you're able to pull away from that whole malarkey, really, you will feel better. In fact, the more people that do this, the more they will die on the vine, because these kinds of people and these tools only work because people take the bait. You know, if you went out fishing with soda cans and fish never bit the cans, you would probably pretty quickly learn maybe I should use something else, like worms or chicken or something like that. And each time something doesn't work, you're not going to keep doing it forever. The reason that they do this is because it works. It gives them that serotonin boost. And so for that reason, I would say, I think he's almost done. He's probably actually beyond done, but just don't argue. There's no value in it. Try and find people that you have shared interests with. Even if you have disagreements in some things, try to find people you have shared interests with, because those are the conversations where actual change could happen. We've definitely warmed up. Don't know if I just faded out and back in there. I should probably get a stopwatch out here, and then I can see how long individual segments are. But yeah, I started doing this not a super long time ago, this being avoiding arguments, because I realized I was wasting my time. People would, and here's the thing, that's not the same as giving up. So when you don't argue with somebody, it is not going to make them look smarter online. When they post something and you just block them and move on with your life, a bunch of people aren't going to see their post and go, oh, that's how I'm supposed to think. They're going to see that post and they're either going to think, this person is psychotic, or they already agree with them. There is no crossroads where somebody comes in sort of sensibly in the center and forks off from there. Because here's the big secret to beliefs. If you can say something has two sides, some argument has two sides, the conversation's too simple. Nothing in life truly that matters that you should be discussing has two sides. This is an illusion, basically, that was created to keep people busy. Like when somebody says, oh yeah, no two sides, huh? Well, is it okay to kill people? And the thing is, that is an absurd question. In what context? Self-defense? Is it somebody who is currently on fire and begging you to put them out of their misery because they're so terribly wounded that they'll be through a lifetime of pain, right? Like, there are so many different scenarios where something like that might happen, going from likely to increasingly absurd, right? And that's the thing, is that a lot of these conversations are made intentionally simple. Topics like pro-life and pro-choice. This is inherently absurd because the implication here is if somebody is pro something, that suggests that somebody is anti something. And the idea that any reasonable amount of people are anti-life, although maybe these days more and more people are falling to that side, but that is absurd, absolutely absurd. The actual conversation most of the time is talking about things like how to make being a parent an affordable thing, raising the safety level for having children, reducing mortality rates, all of these sort of social safety nets that help reduce the need for that sort of procedure in the first place. But that all gets pushed to the side, and it simply becomes, we believe in life, you don't. And that's intentional, because there is no real debate to be had otherwise. If you don't have a bombastic, hyperbolic viewpoint to pitch, there's not much to really discuss because it becomes a lot more boring. But when you can put up a picture of a baby on a billboard and talk about how their hearts beat in like 3 seconds or something after they're born, they're almost always absurd, by the way. Those billboards are almost always actually lying, which is even weirder because it's like, you don't have to. You can make pretty simple arguments without doing that. However, that's not their intent. They're trying to rile people up. In some cases, these are just simple operations to try and keep people heated because it makes it a lot easier to manipulate people for politics and similar operations. And the reason I bring this up, just sort of bring it all back around, is when you're arguing with someone, these are moments where those binaries are presented. And these are always erroneous ways to discuss these topics. If a topic is a binary, there is something missing. And you can be very hyperbolic and say like, well, what if I'm debating that we shouldn't kill literally every human being? It's like, well, that's an absurd conversation. There is nothing to gain there. And that's the thing, is you have to go to the absurd in order for these conversations to actually work as a discussion. If all you're looking to do is to be sarcastic with other people or rude or anything else like that, you don't do that. You just take a complicated topic and you make it simple. And the reason you want to make it simple is you want to have simple sound bites. You want to have something that TV pundits can understand. And these are not particularly intelligent people, so you have to keep it really simple for them to be able to run with it and have arguments, right? And I don't know for sure, but I think the reason that this happens so much is life fundamentally is hard to control. There's a lot of things that we just don't have control over, and people end up feeling helpless. The best way to reduce that feeling of helplessness is to give them easy wins, very simple ways to feel like they succeeded. And if you can provide them with many easy wins, they will see you in a very positive light. So then, what easier win is there than to tear down people who do not have the resources to fight back? That, I think, is the main reason, or at least a big reason, why we see these constant movements every 5 to 10 years of this particular demographic, this particular minority group is the reason global warming is a thing, or why eggs are expensive, or why gas prices are high. Because the actual reasons are fairly complicated and involve a lot of different pieces, all working in tandem in varying levels of positive and negative ways. And nobody wants to have that conversation. Nobody that is in this target audience. Whoops, let me get my shoes off. They just want to scream. They want to feel like they've won. And if you can just take a group of people who can't fight back and strip things away from them, not only do you win, but in relation to them, your life improves. And I'll have an example of that after this set of deadlifts. This is currently 220, which is probably heavier than I should be doing for a warm-up set if I'm going to 250, but they're so far away. So if I ever hurt myself on camera, I'm gonna feel like a real idiot. I'm going for 6-ish just to get sort of the vibe. I think we're okay. I'm still gauging my shoulder. It's been still not great. I'm getting a shoulder brace coming in. But while we sort of let that sink into my body, and I'll maybe grab some weights in a moment. In my prior job, we were split into basically 2 teams, which, hey, it's the binary. We were split into 2 teams, and the one I was on, was frequently pretty far ahead. And the other team was not. And so they didn't have the luxury of leaving basically whenever they wanted. Now, our boss was incredible. He still is. We disagree on a lot of things, but he's a great guy. Probably the best boss you could hope for in a lot of situations. Hopefully he doesn't see this because his ego will get big. But he knew that as long as we were getting our stuff done and we were waiting on other people, what's the point of having us around, right? So he would just work like that. Now, over time, they got more and more jealous, and they had 2 paths to go down. The hard one was to ask their leadership for better processes, more people to get the work done, and more freedom to live their lives. The easy path was to complain to everyone they could, demanding that we lose those freedoms. Now, they ultimately failed. Our boss basically just told us to make it less obvious. But that was the paths they had to choose from. Because if you think about it, either way, their relative position in life improves. Either they get the freedoms that they want and they have a literal increase in quality of life, or they lower our quality of life, which then makes their relative quality of life now even, or you could think of it as theirs raising up to meet ours. This is a really, really shitty way to look at life, but a lot of people do it. So right now, if you're in the US, that's exactly what's happening. What's happening is a lot of people are pretty miserable for various reasons, many valid, some invalid, to me at least, maybe to them they're valid. And so they have two options. One is the really hard path. The really hard path is looking at these incredibly wealthy and powerful people who are quite literally, any one of them, and you saw this with the whole United Health incident, any one of them could just literally self-immolate right now, and every business that they manage would be totally fine. Their stocks would maybe dip for a week, go back up, everything would run as if it was completely unharmed. Which is what makes that whole social parasite thing pretty ironic. A group of people who literally don't matter are the ones calling everyone else parasites, but I digress. Working against that is very hard. Conversely, what you could do is take these people who are not at the absolute rock bottom, and you could find a way to basically kick out their knees, because if you do that, their quality of life will tank, which then makes the delta between their life and yours larger, which then feels like your life has gotten better. And again, this is awful. It is very, very foolish, and it is the reason why, or I should say I always say the, I always mean a when I say the. It is a reason why things are so rough in the US. Everyone always turns to this. If life gets hard, they look for an easy group to beat into the floor, because then the relative delta will feel better. And speaking of relative deltas, we're gonna do this one for a set of, say, 3, and then we'll put the final weight on. They tell you to warm up so you don't like tear a muscle or something, but in 29 degrees, not much I can do. Or at least not much that I'm willing to do sometimes. And hey, that's kind of the problem, right? Just not being willing to do what it takes. I think I said 4? I think so. Yeah, we're gonna need the straps. I can already tell. Hands hurting too much. And it's those, when you start to look at life and look at actions of people as altering the delta between them and the people around them, it starts to make a lot of things make sense. Because you start to realize why, right now, people are going buck wild on women and LGBT folk, all that sort of stuff. If you look historically, it always happens, right? They find a group that is acceptable to beat down. And by acceptable, I mean just, it's not cultural suicide, even though it probably should be, but you know, it's what it is. But they look for an acceptable group, whatever it is. Currently, it is not in vogue to be outwardly racist, but sexism and other kinds of bigotry are currently still vibing. Although maybe you shouldn't listen to me, because I'm the kind of guy who plugs his iPad into an extension that's not plugged into the wall. Anyways, so yeah, so they gotta find the most culturally acceptable group of people to beat down, and in doing so, they will feel like they've accomplished something. And it's kind of ironic, really. There's that old, or not ironic, maybe poetic. There's that old saying. It's like a poem or something. And no, I'm not about to get into fully onto Nazis. It's just from that era, I believe. But it's the whole first they came for so and so and whatnot, and then eventually they come for you. So when I was younger, I needed financial aid in order to eat for elementary school and junior high and even high school. Sorry, I had to get some weights. Where was I? Right. So I needed free lunches or discounted lunches, depending on the year, so that I could eat, because that makes learning a lot easier. And at that time, my father was very against people getting food stamps, because he was always frustrated that they could use it on things other than the cheapest food. Why we think people should suffer when they're already kind of struggling is weird to me, but that's beside the point a bit. What I find kind of poetic, in a very sad way, is you fast forward 30 years, and now the current actual president, who's going around and doing things while the sitting president just exists, I guess, is going on his social media website and saying that people who use social services are parasites. And I find it very poetic that this group of people that my dad used to see in fairly high esteem have turned on him. And they call him a parasite. And it upsets me a little bit, because I also know some people I care about who are fans of these folk, and I just don't know how you can be a fan of people who call your brother a parasite. It's a hard thing to square in my mind. Oh, heaven help me, did I say 8 or 9? We'll go with 8, and then if I feel excellent, we'll go for the 9th one. Yeah, that's what's gonna end up happening, and it already kind of is it'll start just being other people, but eventually it will be you, because everything stands in between rich folk and money, basically. Oofa doofa, these bars hurt to touch. All right, that was hard. And it's kind of the same mechanism, I think, is there hits a certain point where when you're super wealthy, you can't really go up anymore, but you can always send people further down. And the further down you send them, the more that observable delta grows. So I think that's part of what's going on at the moment. Some of it's just good old-fashioned greed, but I think that experience I had at my last job, it's kind of happening there. Whew. It's a nice day out. So yeah, if I could... I didn't come up with this quote, or this idea. If I could implore you, just bless and block. You will find more power and joy in your life finding people with some common interests and having conversations off of that. Anyone who is far gone enough to say things to you that would elicit a desire to have a heated argument is too far gone to be helped. It has to happen naturally for them. they have to have a close friend or a family member basically slap some sense into them. There is no other way. So you're better off just building a society that finds it disgusting so that they are kind of forced into the matter. Because I've definitely known some fairly racist people who just kind of have to deal with it. So it's just sort of your option. And you can't win. It's that old line of if you argue with an idiot, they will beat you down with experience, something like that. Or no, they'll bring you down to their level and then beat you with experience. So definitely don't do that. You're better than that. And if you're somebody who made it this far through the video and you don't like what I said, you know, such is life. I would hope that you didn't comment about it, because the big movement, the big defense, if it were, of this whole nonsense is that these people who are being disassembled, basically, are fragile, you know? And it seems to me that it would be an exceptionally fragile thing to do, to hear words from some stranger on the internet or write either sarcastic or snarky comment about it, because it clearly affects you. And if words are just affecting you, and maybe I'm inspired by the snow outside, but I believe there's a kind of weather that may describe you well. For everybody else, though, people who just come, don't like it, and leave, it was nice to have a little chat. I don't expect any view of yours will change, but at least you'll possibly look at things and think, is that all I'm doing? Am I that simple? Probably not, though. Nobody thinks they're simple. Or I should say most people don't. There's a lot of people in psychology that probably think themselves as quite simple. It's kind of the humor in life, really. The more somebody knows about a topic, the more they realize they don't know much at all. Biggest red flag when you're talking with somebody about anything is their level of confidence. If they wrote the book on that topic, like if it's literally Gerald C++ of C++ fame, sure, they know what they're talking about. Steve Wozniak, for instance, is brilliant. But if they didn't write the book, their level of confidence is an even level with how full of shit they are. And that's something you should always remember. Any rando, famous or otherwise, that sits up on a TEDx talk or whatever and talks about how the world works with weird confidence, you should be very suspicious of them. Because with education does not come confidence. If anything, you breed caution. A really good carpenter is never lax around a table saw. Put it that way. Ooh. Health is a weird thing, right? Out here lifting, not at once, but cumulatively, thousands of pounds, and yet still feeling fragile in the end. It's kind of funny how that works. Life in general is just a Strange, strange beast. I think that's what makes it interesting, right? Is all the variables. Keeps you guessing, keeps you interested. I could probably relive my current life 1,000 times. And I don't know if it would ever feel repetitive. There's so many people I didn't have conversations with that I wish I had. So many conversations already that I missed and will never have. Yeah. So many hobbies I don't have the time for. Yeah, strange stuff. So we got one more set of this, and then we'll do our squats. I forget what I thought I was going to do for the third thing, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. So I think we'll do leg raises. But I'm going to have to fix that whole setup there right now. Looks like a car hit it. I think one of the reasons I like to come out and work out even as my fingers are turning a little blue is it's just really good for a sense of control. I think a lot of people, or enough people, turn to maybe not necessarily evil, but very destructive habits because they're desperate for control in their life. Everything's out of their control. How much they're going to pay for health care, how long they're going to have their job, how long anything, really. Are their friends and family going to love them, and so on. But in the gym, you kind of have full control over the experience. Within reason, and hopefully with your safety in mind, you can lift whatever you want in whatever style you want, in whatever order you want, and nobody can take that away from you. I mean, you could get hurt, and that's why I try to avoid these days, he says, with a bad shoulder. But even then, you can work around it, do different exercises, have different experiences. And it's kind of amazing that just across the board, it reduces all sorts of negative things for you and improves so many other things. The sort of line I've been using a lot recently is it puts my depression under compression. Yeah, it's even if I'll be sad in a few hours, for now, we're just in here having a moment, you know? I think there's something beautiful there. Something simplistic, just me, some rubber, and some steel. I'm sure a lot of hobbies are like this, where you just kind of, you got nowhere to go but up. Because even if you lift the same weight every single time, kind of to that relative thing I mentioned, you're doing more than the majority of living people. And that's cool. Doesn't even have to be all that impressive. And in the end, you'll be healthier. You'll be some level of happier. You'll be stronger. It's cool. it's neat because you think you pick up knitting or something like that, and you get those repetitive strain injuries. And knitting's still really cool, don't get me wrong. But there's so many hobbies where if you do them all the time to peel yourself away from whatever's haunting you, unfortunately they tear you away at you. You can kind of get the same in the gym. As you get older, if the weight's too heavy, you can start to wear down cartilage and stuff. I already started with pretty bad joints, so it is what it is. I think it was 2 videos back that I didn't upload. I've made like 4. But I found out from my doctor recently that I had just like unbelievably low calcium on the chart, where it's like good, too much, too little, and then like dead's over here. I was like somewhere in the middle there. And they were asking me, do your bones break? Do your teeth crack? Do you have any issues like that? I said, no, I mean, I've broken some teeth, but not a lot. And so we did some tests, and like making me sneezy. It turns out I have, I think it was my thyroid, the organ that tells your body to steal calcium from your bones. The organs don't stop. Mine doesn't do that. So not only was my calcium super low, but my body wasn't trying to steal it from anywhere. So the good news was, bones are all good. Bad news was, I was starving a lot of the rest of my body for calcium when it needed it. Things are looking better now. And this is just sort of a PSA. If you have any sort of conditions and you think, well, I'm healthy, keep in mind, you're healthy because of your current age. As you get older, your body is going to get less and less good at managing those extra stressors that you're putting on it. So it is a really good idea to try and improve your health situation now before it's a problem. Think of it a bit like saving for your retirement. The earlier that you work on these things, the more likely you are to have a pleasant part of your life. And you might say, well, what if the entire economy collapses? Similar is true with your health. You can be the world's strongest person, but your heart could stop at 38, you know? So it's a gamble, like so many things in life. But you're better off trying to be healthy. Try and find things that are fun. DDR, Beat Saber, walking. I love weightlifting. It's highly recommended. Yeah, I know. We're gonna take care of that soon. I recognize it looks like a nightmare. But yeah, so the cool thing about weightlifting, in my experience, and I have been in the gym with my wife before, and just been around other ladies in the gym too. So I recognize what I'm about to say is like, well, yeah, you're a man, but I have at least anecdotal experience of being there with people who weren't men in the gym. And most gym people fall into one of 2 categories. Either they are so caught up in their own vanity, you don't exist, which is not a critique, by the way, whatever works for them. Or they are incredibly nice and super excited that you've picked up a hobby they love. I've met so many incredibly nice people in gyms. It is unreal. I think that's one of those sort of misconceptions that gyms are just full of a ton of judgy people. But when you think about it, a gym is full of a lot of people who want to be better than they are. And if you want to be better than you are, you usually don't get there by belittling others, that sort of thing. Now, are there going to be weirdos? Yeah. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world, thereabouts. If even one in a million is like Stalin, I think that works out to 1,000 Stalins, you know? Same thing within your town. If you walk in like LA, if you walk from one side of where you live all the way down to like your grocery store and back, you'll probably pass 1,000 people or more. And if even 1% of those people want to punch you or try to punch you in the face, that still works out to 1 or 10 people every single day trying to hit you in the face. So it's still basically nobody, but when you have enough people, even nobody is a lot of people, or functionally nobody. So yeah, try out a gym. See if a personal trainer is there. They'll give you free coaching. They'll teach you how to do various weightlifting stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with machines, by the way. I shouldn't have held that long. Just don't get too scared. Don't work yourself up and be stuck on a treadmill. Treadmill's better than nothing, but when I first got into the gym, I was scared to look stupid. And I'm gonna sit down for a moment. Oh boy. I didn't want to make a fool of myself around all these people who would never even know who I am. Being human's weird like that, right? And it wasn't until I met a few of the trainers there that I discovered kind of, albeit I do it terribly, but the beauty in free weight exercises, and again, some machine work too. You just have this simple moment with this thing that can't be really taken away from you. There's no DRM on it. It doesn't have a subscription. I mean, I know the gym does, but the equipment doesn't. It doesn't have a subscription. It's just simple. You go to these companies and you say, I need a bar, I need some weights, maybe a pad. They sell you a bar, they sell you some weights, they sell you a pad. They don't try to trick you into all sorts of other stuff. Like this was a me thing. They didn't tell me you should buy this. It was on their website. But when I get into a hobby, I really like getting in, you know? And I have complaints about this. We'll talk about it sometime. But for the most part, it's pretty cool. I think part of it is just gyms or garages are slanted so that water will travel out of them if there's any sort of water ingress. Problem is, this thing's built expecting you to be on a flat plane. It don't do that. So it has its flaws, but it's pretty cool. Oh, I should get some shorter cables. That's what I should do. Anyways, yeah, there's just something pretty about it. Something authentic. I like purchase experiences where a company says, I have this cool thing. Would you like this cool thing? You say, yes, I would. And that cool thing is exactly to the letter what they said it was. That to me is the one time that business is kind of a beautiful enterprise. Especially with small businesses, because they tend to do that more that often than not. And if you happen to be somebody who's watching who knows a little bit about gym stuff, if you meet somebody new who's trying to get into it, don't overwhelm them. Don't make it seem like this is super complicated or unbroachable, right? Impenetrable. Like, this is a very simple operation. You find exercises you like to do. Try and hit as many muscles as you can. But even that's kind of whatever. Do what you vibe with. And as you notice that you can do more reps of something, find a comfortable cutoff point, and every time you hit that cutoff point, add a little more weight. That's it. Rest of your life is now set up for you. You can make it any more complicated than that if you want. You can do what I do. Watch a lot of YouTube people who make it seem really complicated and have a good time. Treat it like Star Trek or something, old Trek. Treat it like Pokemon, you know? Find your favorite exercise. Do not go up my butt. That was messier than 3-day-old nachos, but oh, it's fine. And the best part is, if you ever get into this, is when you're done, you can go eat a little bit and veg, and you feel amazing. Like, sure, I'm on the couch watching nonsense, but I feel like I did something today. It's like you awakened something primal in you. I think with any interest, just not getting lost in the sauce, unless that's something that makes you happy. If getting really, really into something to the point where you're thinking about it constantly, if that fills you with joy, you're doing it right. But if you've only got a passing interest and you just want to know enough to do the thing, that's cool too. At the end of the day, we all got that ticking clock currently. You never know when somebody's just gonna drive into you in a Target parking lot. Yeah, if I could get you to do me any kind of favors, just chill, be nice to your friends and family, and strangers if you can. Don't argue. Find people with shared interests and live your best life. Because if you get 8 billion people following that advice, problem is convincing everyone. Oh, and that's not me being an expert. I don't even think it's realistic, but that's just the hopeless romantic in me, I guess. All right, we got one more set. My body's like, no, you don't. Life wants you to think that it's harder than it actually is. It's got those fake tattoos on, pants around its ankles. That's a bit low for sagging, but listening to music that doesn't relate to its life at all. Grew up pretty privileged, actually. How is it 2 degrees colder? And it feels so much hotter. So, to my understanding, and this is especially true when you've got knees as bad as mine, further back you can lean, the more stretch you'll get. And supposedly, the more stretch you get during the exercise, the better. I have no idea if that's true, but what I do know is the more stretch you get, the more absolutely destroyed your muscles are later. And that's usually what I'm looking for. So I'm just gonna lean back, possibly too far, let her rip. What's clicking, huh? Eh? We'll never know. Yeah, listen how quiet that is. That a little too hard. Probably shouldn't kick it up, probably bad on my knees. All right, last set. I need to get better lighting in here too, by the way. I mean, I'm not much of a looker as is, but ooh, that lighting is rough. Was that 12? We'll do one more just in case. Oh. And that's it. Don't beat yourself up. Give what you got to give and nothing more. I believe in you.